The wine glass trembled in Grace Bennett's hand as she watched her son's fiancée whisper into her phone from the hallway of his mansion. "Tonight," the young woman said. "I'll do it tonight." Grace didn't know yet what it meant. But a mother's instinct doesn't need proof to feel cold. 23 years earlier, Grace had been a 19-year-old girl standing in the rain outside her parents' house in a small Georgia town, a suitcase in one hand and a secret in the other. The boy who had promised to marry her, the boy she had believed with her whole heart, looked at her stomach and told her he wanted nothing to do with what was growing inside it. Her own father had opened the door only long enough to tell her she had brought shame on his roof, and then he closed it. She remembered standing on that porch, rain soaking through her coat, understanding for the first time that the people who were supposed to catch her would not. She found a room above a laundromat 2 towns over. She scrubbed floors during the day and sold fruit from a cart in the evenings, and on a night in early spring, alone except for a neighbor who came running when she heard the screaming, Grace brought her son into the world. She named him Marcus. She swore to him, though he couldn't understand her yet, that he would never know the particular cruelty of being unwanted. She kept that promise the only way she knew how, by working until her hands cracked, by walking him to school in shoes 2 sizes too small so his could fit properly, by staying up past midnight so he never once went to bed hungry. When Marcus was 8, he asked her the question she had been dreading. "Mama, do I have a father?" She told him the truth gently, the way you hand a child something sharp, carefully, and only what he was ready to hold. She told him his father's name was David, that David had walked away before Marcus was even born, and that she had not seen him since. There was one afternoon, when Marcus was 12, that Grace never told him about until years later. She had seen David on the street, older, wearing a wedding ring, walking with a woman who was clearly his wife. Grace had taken Marcus by the hand and introduced him. "This is your son," she'd said, her voice steady even though her knees were not. David had looked at the boy for exactly 3 seconds before turning back to Grace. "I have a family now," he said. "Please don't bring up the past. Pretend you didn't see me." And then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd like he had never been anything to either of them. Marcus had gone quiet on the walk home. When they reached their small house, he finally spoke. "I don't need him, Mama. I promise I'll never ask about him again. I'm going to make you proud." He kept that promise too. He studied by candlelight when the power got cut off. He worked 2 jobs through community college. He built a small app to help local shops manage payments, and that small app became a company, and that company became Bennett Technologies, and within a decade, the boy who once wore shoes 2 sizes too small was signing checks with more zeros than his mother could count. He begged her over and over to move into the mansion he'd bought. She always refused. "I like my small house, my son," she told him, and meant it. The mansion felt like someone else's life. But she came for dinner most Sundays, and it was on one of those Sundays that Marcus told her about Vanessa. "She's beautiful, Mama. Confident. Sophisticated. I think she's the one." Grace noticed, though she said nothing at the time, that he described everything about how Vanessa looked and nothing about how Vanessa made people feel. "Bring her to meet me," Grace said. "Soon," Marcus promised. "She's just busy with work." Weeks turned into months, and soon, never quite arrived, until the night Marcus called his mother, his voice bright with joy she hadn't heard from him in years. "Mama, Vanessa and I are engaged." Grace should have felt happy. Instead, a small, cold stone settled in her stomach, the kind of feeling she had learned, over 23 hard years, never to ignore. It was 2 weeks later that a stranger tried to snatch Grace's purse outside the farmer's market. She had frozen, certain she was about to lose more than money, when a young woman in a work uniform stepped between her and the man without a second's hesitation. "Let her go," the young woman said, "or I call the police right now." The man ran. Grace, shaking, thanked her. The young woman introduced herself as Hope, walked Grace all the way home to make sure she was safe, and refused to accept so much as a cup of tea for her trouble. "It's nothing, ma'am," she said. "I just couldn't leave you there." Grace thought about that sentence for days. "I just couldn't leave you there." It was such a small thing to say and such an enormous thing to mean. A neighbor later mentioned, almost in passing, that Hope worked as a secretary at Bennett Technologies. At her son's company. Grace felt something in her chest tighten, half hope and half heartbreak, because she suspected even then that the woman who had risked herself for a stranger and the woman her son was about to marry were not cut from anything close to the same cloth. "I need to know if Vanessa is the right woman for you," Grace told Marcus one evening, taking his hand across the kitchen table. "Something doesn't sit right with me. Let me test her." "Test her how?" "Let me move into the mansion. Not as your mother," As your maid. Let's see how she treats someone she believes has no power at all. That will tell us everything love and pretty words cannot. Marcus resisted at first. Vanessa was busy with wedding planning. He said she wouldn't even notice a new maid, but Grace was firm in the quiet, immovable way she had always been firm, and eventually he agreed, mostly, he admitted, for his own peace of mind. So Grace Bennett became Nena the maid, dressed in a plain gray uniform, carrying trays and mopping marble floors in the very house her son owned. The first days were almost bearable. Then Vanessa moved in to finalize the wedding, and the house changed with her. "Can someone take my bags?" Vanessa said the first evening, not even glancing at the woman standing 3 feet away. "And be careful with that vase, it's very expensive. More expensive than you'll ever understand." It got worse from there. "Nena, why is this food cold?" Vanessa snapped one night, loudly enough for the whole kitchen to hear. "Do I have to explain how to warm soup? Honestly, these people, if you're too kind to them, they start acting like they belong here." Marcus, sitting across the table, said nothing that night. But Grace saw the flicker cross his face, the first small crack in the picture he'd built of the woman he loved. The cruelty compounded daily. "Can't you move any faster, old woman? Watching you is like watching a snail. You forgot to clean this glass. You're old and lazy, I don't even know why Marcus keeps you around." Grace absorbed each insult the way she'd absorbed every hard thing in her life, quietly, patiently, filing it away as evidence. Then came the day Hope arrived at the mansion to deliver a file Marcus had forgotten before a meeting, and found Vanessa mid-tirade, calling Grace pathetic and useless in front of the household staff. Hope, without a flicker of hesitation, stepped in exactly the way she had on the street. "Don't you think you're being a little harsh?" she said. "She hasn't done anything wrong." "And who asked you?" Vanessa snapped. "Mind your business, little secretary. Kindness is never out of bounds," Hope answered evenly. "Maybe you should try it sometime." Then she turned to Grace, gentler now. "Ma'am, if you ever want to leave this place, you're always welcome to stay with me. Nobody deserves to be treated like this." Grace, playing her part, only nodded and thanked her, but inside, something settled into place with quiet certainty. "Vanessa has beauty. This girl has a heart. My son cannot marry a woman without one." The true blow came a few nights later. Grace, carrying towels down the hallway, overheard Vanessa on the phone, her voice low and frantic. "I'm pregnant," Vanessa was saying, "and I can't tell Marcus because we've never even slept together. It's because of his ridiculous promise to wait until marriage. Who does that? I can't lose him, he's my golden ticket. If I lose him, I lose everything." A pause, then, chillingly calm. "Put something in his drink? Are you serious?" "Fine. I'll do it tonight." Grace's blood went cold. She had raised her son alone through poverty, humiliation, and heartbreak so that no one, would ever again treat him as disposable, as a means to an end. She was not about to let it happen now, dressed up in silk and a diamond ring. That night, as Vanessa handed Marcus a glass of wine with a smile sweet enough to hide poison, Grace stepped into the room. "Marcus, don't drink that." "Nena, what's wrong with you?" Marcus said, startled. "I know what's in that glass," Grace said, her voice no longer the maid's voice but a mother's. "I heard everything, Vanessa. The pregnancy. The plan. Every word." Vanessa's face went white, then furious. "She's lying. This crazy old woman is making things up. Marcus, get rid of her, she's been trouble since the day she arrived." "Marcus," Grace said quietly, "it's time you knew the truth. This was never really about me. This was Madame Grace Bennett, your mother, testing the woman you were about to marry. And now we have our answer." The silence that followed was the loudest thing in the room. Marcus looked at the maid who had scrubbed his floors for weeks and saw, for the first time in that light, his own mother's eyes staring back at him. Then he looked at Vanessa, and every polished, sophisticated thing about her suddenly looked like exactly what it was, a costume. "Tell me she's lying," he said quietly. Vanessa tried. She cried, she pleaded, she called it a joke, the way women talk sometimes. But Grace repeated, word for word, what she had overheard, and the color drained further from Vanessa's face with every sentence, because both of them knew there was no version of joke that included the word golden ticket. "Pack your things," Marcus finally said. "Leave tonight." "Marcus, please, I love you." "Love doesn't drug people, Vanessa. Love doesn't calculate what it can extract from someone. You've shown me exactly who you are." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. She was escorted out within the hour, and the silence she left behind felt, for the first time in months, like clean air. For weeks afterward, Marcus struggled with a question that gnawed at him quietly. How could he have been so wrong? How would he ever trust his own judgment again? Cynthia said all the right things, he told his mother one evening. How do I know if someone loves me for who I am and not for what I have? Sometimes, Grace told him, taking his hand, the right person has been in front of you the whole time. You just have to be willing to see them without their title attached. Hope, he said almost to himself. He began carefully to court her, not with expensive restaurants or extravagant gifts, but with simple things. Quiet dinners, long conversations, walks where nobody was watching. I thought you'd want somewhere fancier, he told her once. This is fine, she said. I just wanted to spend time with you. You don't have to impress me, Marcus. Simple things can still be beautiful. He noticed, with something like relief, that she never once asked what he could give her. But the wound Vanessa left was deep and old habits die slowly. I need to be sure, he confessed to his mother. What if she's just better at hiding it? Then test her properly, Grace said. But remember, she has already shown you kindness when she believed she had nothing to gain from it. Don't forget that. So Marcus staged the boldest test of his life. He let it be known, quietly, deliberately, that Bennett Technologies had collapsed. Bad investments, he told his stunned staff, had wiped out the company overnight. He moved out of the mansion into a small rented apartment. He let his friends believe he had lost everything. The fallout came fast. His old friend Trevor, once his closest confidant, stopped answering his calls. I've got my own problems right now, Trevor said flatly before the line went dead. The same man Marcus had bailed out of debt more times than he could count. One by one, the people who had orbited his success drifted away, like light fading from a room once the lamp is switched off. Hope did not drift. She showed up at his small apartment with groceries, refusing to let him go hungry with worry. You didn't have to do this, he told her. I know, she said. I wanted to. You are not your money, Marcus. She brought him consulting leads, reminded him his skills hadn't vanished just because his bank account had. You built something once, she told him. You can build it again. It was on one of those quiet evenings, surrounded by moving boxes instead of marble floors, that Hope finally told him the truth she'd carried since the day she first saw him at the office. I've loved you since the beginning, she said. Not because of the company or the house or any of it. Because of how you treat people. Your kindness. I never said anything because I didn't think someone like me belonged next to someone like you. You were wrong about that, he said. You've given me more than I ever had, even when I had everything. It was only then, humbled and certain, that Marcus confessed the second lie. The company never collapsed, Hope. None of it was real, not the bankruptcy, not this apartment. I needed to know, after Vanessa, if you would stay when you believed I had nothing left to give you. Hope stood in silence for a long moment, something between hurt and disbelief crossing her face. You lied to me. About everything. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, he said. But I'm asking for it anyway. You really hurt me, she said quietly. Then after a breath, but I forgive you. Just never test me like that again. Never, he promised. Not ever again. He brought her back to the mansion soon after, the real one, gleaming and untouched, and this time, there was no maid's uniform waiting inside. Grace stood in the entryway in her own clothes, and Hope's eyes went wide with understanding. You're his mother, she said slowly. I thought you were just staff. I was for a while, Grace said, taking her hands. It was never about deceiving you, my dear, it was about seeing you. And what I saw was a woman who defended a stranger she thought had nothing to offer her. That told me everything about your heart. Marcus knelt right there in the hallway where his mother had once carried trays as a maid. Hope, you have shown me the truth about love when I had forgotten what it looked like. Will you marry me? Yes, she said through tears. Yes, Marcus. Months later, the whole company gathered to hear an announcement neither had expected. The collapse had been fabricated from the start, and every employee who had stayed loyal through the supposed crisis received their jobs back, along with a bonus Marcus called a thank you for believing when belief cost you something. His circle of friends was smaller now than it had ever been. It was also, for the first time, entirely trustworthy. At the wedding, Grace stood at the front of the church, watching her son marry a woman who had never once known his net worth mattered more than his character. She thought of the porch in the rain 23 years earlier, of the door that had closed on her, of the years she had raised a boy alone with nothing but stubborn love and harder work. Every tear she realized had carried her here. Thank you for everything, Mama, Marcus told her that night. I couldn't have done any of this without you. No, my son, Grace said, holding both his hands. Thank you. You've shown me that love still exists in its purest form, and you found a partner who loves you for exactly who you are, not for what you can give her. She turned to Hope. You are my daughter now. Love my son with patience and let him love you with honesty. No more fear, Hope promised. No more tests. Only truth. If you were Grace, watching your son fall for someone who couldn't see past her own reflection, would you have gone as far as she did to protect him? Or would you have let him learn the hard way on his own? Tell us in the comments what you would have done in her place. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more stories like this one, and share it with someone who still believes real love isn't about what you have, it's about who stays when you have nothing at all.